am I not getting any audio? I hear nothing. Aha.
If you're just joining us, we're less than 50 minutes from the scheduled liftoff of the Falcon 9 rocket carrying Crew Dragon. And if we start to hear any kind of update on weather or polling, we will pause to listen in for that. But if things go as scheduled, we should be
got a
hearing
reject on some of those emails.
The launch director
Oh,
verify
no,
go
YouTube
for
came.
propellant load at about T minus 45 minutes. So we're going to send it over to Hawthorne to carry the ball. John Innsbrucker or Jesse, are you there?
This weather is go at this time.
Weather's go at this time. That's what I want to hear.
Dragon copy, go weather.
And there you heard that call out. So far we have good weather. We are go for launch today. This is getting really exciting. I don't know about you, Dan, but my heart is beating pretty fast right now.
Yeah, we've been waiting for those words since Wednesday.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we did hear a call to the crew, just in case you missed it, that they were only tracking one final weather constraint. It was the cumulus cloud rule. They were expecting it to clear up within 10 minutes, and it's cleared up now. So we are currently go on weather.
Yes, and it's been pretty incredible to be so close to launch, and the road leading up to this point has been pretty incredible as well.
It has been. It's been a partnership between NASA and SpaceX. We've been working together since SpaceX started flying cargo to the International Space Station, now getting ready to launch crew. And
I'm a little bit late.
We've been really fortunate to work with not only a lot of international partners on the International Space Station, but a lot of
really
great companies.
And as a reminder, here in the control room, we'll be closing doors here once we start with propellant load. Any last-minute bio breaks, please go ahead and accomplish those in the next few minutes.
And the launch director just getting the teams ready. We'll be coming up on that propellant loading again. That starts at about 35 minutes prior to liftoff, so in about 12 minutes from now. There's going to be a go, no go coming up really soon. So let's go over to our man, John I, for the latest. John?
It's T-minus 47 minutes, 24 seconds. We're continuing to count down. As you just heard, the launch director and launch team are preparing for the readiness for launch poll. Now, the launch director is currently checking with Dragon mission director and NASA launch manager for their readiness. And actually, it sounds like everybody is good there. The launch director will then ask the team, he'll tell them the poll is open, and the 13 members of the SpaceX launch team will be electrically polled for their go to load propellant, as well as continue all the way to launch.
I guess it's going to record that, yeah.
Now, we will hear that poll results and a briefing from the launch director at about T-minus 45 minutes. The good news right now is that the weather is go. All the conditions that were read shortly a while ago at T-minus 1 hour have cleared. We're, as the weather forecaster said, cautiously optimistic. Currently,
Countdown.
the probability...
Poll is complete. We're go for propellant load.
Well, we got an early call out there.
And launch control clear to retract the access arm on time. After that, arming access arm retract at T-minus 45 minutes.
Got an early call from SpaceX launch director Mike Taylor that the poll is go. You also heard the direction T-minus 45 minutes to prepare for retract of the crew arm. As we hear more discussion, we'll stop and let you listen in. But right now, weather for liftoff, ground level winds are good, 10 to 15 miles an hour, well within limits. Upper altitude balloons show that conditions are acceptable. The red weather conditions have cleared up, the last one being cumulus clouds. And the probability of violation is set at 30% right now, so that's 70% chance of good weather. We're continuing to watch. There is about a less than 10% chance of lightning. We're also watching the abort corridor off of the Atlantic coast. In case, for example, at stage separation, Dragon had to abort into the ocean. The conditions there are acceptable. There has not been lightning lately. The weather, winds are good, light rain. It is go, but NASA is going to continue to watch those conditions.
T-minus 45 minutes and counting. Reminder on hold and launch escape protocol. For non-urgent no-go conditions, brief the CE or LD, and they will approve aborting launch auto-sequence and proceed to launch abort. For urgent issues affecting the safety of the operation, operators shall call hold on the countdown net. Launch control will immediately abort the launch auto-sequence and proceed to the launch abort auto-sequence. Operators shall also advise launch director whether structural break or fire is imminent or occurring for Dragon manual escape flight rules. A reminder on fire alarm instructions. In the event of a fire alarm, key operators previously briefed will remain at their post while the alarm is evaluated. In the event that personal safety is threatened, evacuate to the south-facing emergency exit, which leads directly outside. At this time, weather is go for launch.
You can see on the screen, we're inside T-minus 40, we're T-minus 44 minutes, 5 seconds. Crew access arm retracting
has
away.
begun.
SpaceX launch director is giving the final brief to the crew. And we will be beginning propellant loading at T-minus 35 minutes. So right now on Falcon 9, ready to get into propellant loading. Dragon, crew, getting configured, set up. The arm is pulling away. The range is go for launch. They continue to monitor the air and the sea space. Everything looks good. And we finally have gotten green across the board on the weather conditions, but we can't take a deep breath quite yet. We're going to have to watch the weather all the way down to T0, both here at Kennedy Space Center and out in the Atlantic in the abort zones. Now earlier we saw many of you following the launch from the United States on our hotspot map. Now that we're inside an hour, we're seeing large numbers of folks logging on, tuning in from coast to coast and around the world. So we'd like to know, is this your first time watching a launch live, not counting Wednesday? And if not, how many have you seen before? Tell us using the hashtag LaunchAmerica from your favorite social media platform. And with that, at T-minus 42 minutes, 50 seconds, conditions are go, and we are counting down for an on-time launch. Let's send it back over to Kennedy Space Center as the action begins to pick up on the pad.
Dragon, SpaceX, you are go for Section 7, close visors and arm launch escape system.
We will put Section 7 in work, visors come in close.
All right, the countdown clock is continuing to tick. My heart is continuing to beat 5 million beats a second, and we are getting so close.
SpaceX Dragon in 7.2, visors are closed, we're arming launch escape system.
Copy.
And as you just heard, the crew is arming the launch escape system. That is one of the absolute last big milestones prior to liftoff, other than nominal Falcon operations. So just a minute ago, we saw the crew access arm retract, and obviously we just heard on the comms, Bob and Doug getting ready to arm the launch escape system, and so that is something that protects them all the way to orbit. So when fueling starts at about T-minus 35 minutes, so just over 6 minutes from now, they will have the capability to abort, to separate from Falcon 9 either on the pad or even after liftoff. That's a critical safety capability. And we are going to go over to Hawthorne now to take us through these next minutes. Jesse?
Section, switch in to nitrogen.
And we did hear that call out that they are arming the launch escape system, so very exciting. SpaceX has designed Crew Dragon and Falcon 9 to be the safest launch system ever flown. So we brought back Nick Picone, SpaceX's Nick Picone, to talk more about this again. Thanks for coming back and joining us today, Nick.
Hey, Jesse. Happy to be here. Still monitoring the launch here with our recovery and ground operations teams.
Awesome. And Nick was our mission manager for our in-flight abort test earlier this year and now works on the Starlink team. Nick, on Wednesday, you talked about the launch escape system. Could you just give us a brief summary today for those that are joining today?
Sure. So the launch escape system, again, is our ultimate safety feature to keep Bob and Doug safe in the event of a major Falcon anomaly on the pad. The system is designed to automatically fire if either vehicle detects a dangerous condition developing. And if that happens, Dragon will use its 8 Super Draco engines to push the capsule off and away to a safe distance away from this Falcon. This capability is absolutely critical. It's what keeps the crew safe, and we're now active and armed on the pad with it protecting the crew.
And as you mentioned, the launch escape system allows the Dragon to separate and get away from the vehicle. I believe it goes into the ocean. What happens after it lands safely in the ocean?
Correct. So for most of our failure modes, the successful end state is Dragon deploying parachutes, splashing down safely in the ocean. But since a launch escape can happen while the vehicle's on the pad or anywhere in flight up through orbit, it could be splashing down right off the coast of Cape Canaveral. It could be splashing down thousands of miles away in the North Atlantic. If that happens, to make sure we can get to Bob and Doug as quickly as possible, the Space
Hey, they show
Force's
up.
45th
Oh,
Space
no,
Wing
it's just
Task
me.
Force 45 has pararescue teams staged and ready all around the world, ready to drop in and rescue Bob and Doug as soon as possible.
And you mentioned that the launch escape system will keep them safe all the way up to orbit. What other options are there after Dragon is in orbit?
Sure. So if for any reason we're unable to dock to the International Space Station, we have several pre-planned return trajectories, which will bring the capsule down to a splashdown point close to shore, where NASA and SpaceX recovery forces will be waiting to recover them. It'll look like an otherwise totally normal recovery operation, except for the early end of mission. This operation is something we're doing with one of 2 identical crew recovery ships. We do that because the landing sites, we want to maintain as much flexibility as possible. There could be changing weather conditions that bring down one site and leave the other one up. So we have those 2 identical ships, one in the Atlantic, one in the Gulf of Mexico. And our space operations team can redirect the spacecraft to go to whichever site is the safest option for the crew at that time.
And with the vehicle, in almost any scenario, it sounds like the vehicle will land into the ocean. And that's it may look like a gentle landing into the ocean, but it's a pretty dynamic event happening. And you mentioned there are teams that are ready to go and rescue the vehicle and the astronauts on board. How do you prepare for something like that, especially with so many different scenarios that could happen?
Sure. So we're lucky to have had about a decade of recovery experience with Cargo Dragon 1 in our previous trips to the International Space Station. That, along with our booster recovery missions, we've got a great team of recovery operators here who have a lot of offshore experience with our spacecraft. The system, though, that we took that experience, we built up a new crew recovery ship, 2 identical crew recovery ships, I should say, which have a lot of those lessons learned baked into the design of that ship and the operations. These new ships have complete medical facilities, an operational helipad, and redundant communications, power, and propulsion to make sure they're robust and ready for anything we encounter offshore. We've also done tons of training exercises with SpaceX team, the NASA team, and the rescue forces I mentioned earlier, practicing capsule recovery, emergency scenarios where we have to get the crew out of the capsule while they're still in the water.
I'm
as
all by
well as those
myself in
helicopter
here.
Evacuations, taking off and
I'm gonna
landing
try
from the
calling
pad
Jeff again.
many times, so that we make sure the team is ready to do that. They're all staged and ready. They feel ready to support, and will be ready to call on us if anything goes wrong today.
Awesome. It sounds like Bob and Doug are in some really good hands and will be safe no matter what occurs on the vehicle. So thank you, Nick, for joining us again, for walking us through all of those details. I hope you're just as excited as we are for a launch coming up here very, very shortly now. So we're going to send it over to KSC to Lauren.
Thank you, Jesse. So as you just heard, fueling is about to begin at T-minus 35 minutes. We are about 50 seconds away from that. And so we're getting really, really close to the first launch of astronauts into orbit from American soil since 2011. The launch escape system is armed, which, as you know, happens before fueling. And Dragon propellant load, that's the propellants that are inside of the Dragon capsule, not the rocket. Prop load for Dragon took place weeks ago and just a few miles down the road in what we call Dragonland. And those propellants, they are MMH, or monomethyl hydrazine, which is the fuel that we use. It's hypergolic fuel. And NTO, or nitrogen tetraoxide, that's the oxidizer. Those two come together and they ignite in space to propel the vehicle. you don't need that T-TEB or a third thing to ignite because hypergolic propellants don't require it. You just need the fuel
Hey, Jeff.
and the oxidizer. And as
Are
you
you
just
home?
heard, propellant load has started on Falcon 9, and that's awesome.
Oh, okay. You know,
All right,
the
so
launch
that,
is happening at
that
35 minutes.
bipropellant system feeds all of the engines on
And
Dragon.
it looks like it's,
So
it might be
Dragon
go because they're
has
saying now
12
70-30.
service section,
Before they were saying 50-50 on the weather.
engines
So
in each, so there's
I'm
three
already
in each
started the
quad,
stream if you
three,
want to
three,
end the
and
Zoom
three.
meeting.
Those
So I
are
sent
used
it
for
out to
on-orbit
as many
maneuvering
people
for
as I could
Dragon. There's
think of,
also
but
4
maybe you could
additional Dracos
send
that
a
are
message
underneath
to
the nose
everybody.
cone for large delta V maneuvers
Yeah.
that the vehicle
Okay,
perform.
okay.
But the engines that
Cool. Okay,
that Nick
talk to you later.
Pacone was
Bye.
talking about earlier are Super Draco engines. We have 2 in each quad of the vehicle, so 8 total. And those are bigger engines with a high flow propellant system, and those are what
why.
lift Dragon off of
Can't
Falcon
really
9 in the unlikely event
I
of
don't
an
know if I like
emergency
this program.
that
I kinda
requires
hate
us to get
this.
off of Dragon, off of Falcon. Now, you probably remember, let's see, a Mercury,
things I don't
Apollo,
like about
Soyuz,
this.
they have that big pointy tower on top. That's the launch escape system for those vehicles. It is actually just another rocket on top of the spaceship that lifts the vehicle off. In the
Alright,
case
meeting.
of Dragon, our escape system is integrated into the vehicle completely. And so that's just better from one less thing you have to jettison every single flight. But it also allows us to have escape capability from the pad before T0 all the way through to orbit. And so
Set
even
back
at
up.
the very last minute, if we needed to get off of stage 2 while we're in space, we could actually escape to orbit. So yeah, that's the escape system for little baby Dragon here.
Thanks, Lauren, and thanks for walking us through that, because I think it's really important that people understand that critical safety capability, and that's the whole point when we hear that launch escape system is armed. What that means is that in an instant, they can separate from Falcon 9, shoot up into the air, and they can splash down safely in the Atlantic Ocean under Dragon's parachutes, and it was designed to do that. So now that fueling is underway, it's been going on for about 2 minutes now, so they have that safety capability ready to go on standby in an instant if they need it. And so we want to go over to Hawthorne now for an operational update from John Instructor. John?
Stage 2 fuel and stage 2 fuel, all flow rates tracking nominally.
Are they loading fuel already? Wow. I fixed the sliding a little bit. There's Jeff's email.
We're T-minus 32 minutes, counting down. These final minutes, everything's still looking good for Falcon 9 and Dragon for an on-time launch. Falcon 9 did begin propellant load at T-minus 35 minutes at planned. Now on the Falcon 9, we use a fuel and oxidizer as the propellants that power it. The fuel is commonly known as RP1. That's rocket propellant grade 1 kerosene. The oxidizer is densified
comes
liquid
Jeff.
oxygen, also called LOX. Densified means it is kept much colder than typical for launch vehicles. This allows for more oxidizer to be loaded
Jeff, how
into
you
the
doing?
first and second
Good.
stages.
See me? Oh my God.
Now with the
Not
fuel
yet.
and oxidizer on hand, we need
I
an
don't see it
ignition
yet.
source to complete
Yeah.
that fire triangle, as we call it. For this, Falcon 9 uses a fluid called
Okay.
T-TEB. It ignites in the presence of oxygen and gives off a green-colored flame.
Oh, there you go.
Now, it's hard to see on the first stage ignition due to the water that'll be spraying on the pad, but you might just see the green flare as the second stage engine ignites following stage separation over 2.5 minutes into flight. Now, currently, first stage fuel tank is about 10% full. The first stage, as a reminder, as you look on the left side
Yeah, the
of
weather
your
actually doesn't look
screens,
too bad from
the
that
first
angle
stage
anyway.
is the long white
Good,
cylinder at the
yeah.
bottom,
You know,
topped
they're-
off by the black cylinder.
Unfortunately,
So
it has to be
two-thirds
good
of the rocket
everywhere
is that
downstream,
first stage.
you know,
So the fuel
because they
tank
have
is
they have
getting
bored all
loaded.
the way
We're also
till
loading the
it's
liquid
possible they have
oxygen
to have
into
good
the
weather
first
in
stage also.
north of Ireland or something.
The second
Yeah.
stage, which is the top 1/3 between the Dragon and the black cylinder, that's the white second stage. That is being loaded with fuel right now. That's about 8% loaded at this moment.
Yeah, once it gets
Liquid
more,
oxygen loading
you'll see that
is going
smoke
to
just
begin
get
on second
more and more and
stage
more
at T-minus 16 minutes 30
because
seconds.
it frosts up.
Liquid
It's
oxygen
just like
loading
it's
will
super
continue
cold.
on both stages
Huh.
all
And
the
that's
way
what that
down
is.
to
It's
the last few
condensation
minutes of
from all the
count.
cold
We're
kinda
also loading
leaks
helium
out
into
almost.
pressure vessels on the stages. That's used to pressurize tanks in flight as the propellant is pulled out by the strong Merlin turbopumps. On board the Dragon spacecraft, astronauts are monitoring systems while the propellant is loaded into Falcon 9.
Amazing.
While we mentioned we had trained them with sounds that we had recorded on board. They've been through most of a propellant load, and they are now experiencing those sounds and vibrations.
Stage 1,
The
cryo
range
helium load
continues to
started.
report no problems. They are go to support launch. Weather, the last of the red conditions cleared up about 15 minutes ago. Everything is marginally
Hey, Ellen, how you doing?
acceptable on the weather.
gonna mute you.
We'll
Good,
continue
let me
to
put you on the
watch all the way
speakerphone,
through
hang
the
on.
countdown. Now, as a reminder, today we are now into an instantaneous
Yeah,
launch
go
window
ahead.
now that we've begun propellant loading. So at this point, if we hear a hold for any reason, we'll have to stand down and target our backup launch opportunity tomorrow, May 31st.
Thanks, John. For Demo-2, Bob and Doug's flight to station will take about 19 hours, and their journey is fairly similar to the trip our Cargo Dragon makes back and forth to the International Space Station, but with two noticeable differences, and that's docking and splashdown.
And as we await T-0 in just under 29 minutes from now, the ground operations teams are doing a series of system checks to make sure Dragon and Falcon 9 are both ready for liftoff. And we're continuing to get live views inside the capsule with Bob and Doug, and you're now also looking in firing room 4 down there at the Cape.
Once we hit T0 and a successful launch occurs, we will watch Falcon 9 and Dragon make their ascent until the Falcon 9 first and second stage separates and sends Dragon on its way to the space station.
And at this point, mission operators will prepare Dragon for on-orbit operations, where the vehicle will execute a series of burns that gradually raise its orbit to align more closely with the space station, as you can see in this animation. And just after putting Dragon into the same orbital plane as the station, the teams will get ready for Dragon's approach and docking maneuvers.
The next Dragon will make its approach and actually dock with the space station. And this is a very different process from what we've seen with Dragon cargo deliveries in the past, which use a process called berthing. Berthing requires a spacecraft to approach the station and then stop so a crew member can maneuver the station's robotic arm to capture the spacecraft. Docking on this version of Dragon can be done autonomously with no crew on board the station. It's typically a faster process, both when arriving and leaving, but it does still require pinpoint accuracy to approach safely.
Once captured, a spacecraft then gets attached to a common berthing mechanism, same type of port that we use to connect each of the modules on the station together. It's a little bit slower of a process, but the hatches are significantly larger than the docking ports, which makes them perfect for bringing up those really big cargo items.
Dragon will spend up to 120 days docked before preparing to return home. Following successful completion of Dragon's test objectives and cargo loading operations, the crew will close the cabin, perform final system checks, and configure the vehicle for undocking. Once the automated undocking sequence is complete, Dragon will complete 2 departure burns using its Draco engines, pushing it away from the space station.
And then next up on the trip, deorbit entry and landing, or splashdown, which is going to cover all the operations following that final departure maneuver. That's going to include events like the trunk separation, closing of the nose cone, a deorbit burn, and then eventually as they get into the atmosphere, the deployment of the drogue and the main parachutes, and all of that ends with splashdown right off the Florida coast. At that point, teams from SpaceX will move in with their recovery ship, grab the capsule out of the water, and work to get Bob and Doug out of Dragon after a successful mission in space.
Nice.
So we are 26 minutes away from launch. Fueling of Falcon 9 is continuing. Let's check in one more time down with the team at Kennedy. Murray?
All right, thanks, Dan. We are so pumped right now because things have cleared up and it looks like we might actually do this today. If you're just joining us, we are now 25 minutes,
That's
46
good.
seconds and counting
I like it.
from the first launch of astronauts to the International Space Station from U.S. soil in 9 years. This will mark the beginning of a new era where more people will be able to fly to space than ever before. And we want to share with you the results of a poll we asked a little earlier. If you could go to the moon, now it's not where the astronauts are going today, they're going to the space station, but if you could go to the moon, would you rather visit the South Pole where no one has been before or the Apollo 11 landing site? And it was a pretty even split. We had 46% of you say you would go to the moon's South Pole, and 54% of you would go to the Apollo 11 landing site. I kind of side with the Apollo 11 landing site because I'm a history buff and I want to see where Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin set foot. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Lauren, which place would you go?
I'm with you on that one, and I would love to go see that flag there and those footsteps, those footprints there. Still be there, right? There's no wind up
Should
there.
still be there. Leland, how about you?
I think I'm with both of you because it's just like, the meatball, the classic.
Yeah.
Going to the classic spot, and that's where all of it started. That's where all that inspiration came, even though I was an antenna engineer not seeing it. But besides that, that's history.
And hopefully, maybe it wouldn't have to be one or the other.
That's true.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we're going to learn more from going where we've never been before, and so we need to go to the South Pole too. And we are thrilled to see all of you following along online. Thank you for answering our poll, and we're going to go over to Tahira, who's been monitoring all the action with less than 25 minutes to go. Tahira, I'm sure things are heating up online.
Hey, Marie, I mean, you're completely right. Now that we have that go for launch, people are on the edge of their seat right now waiting on this historic moment to take flight. As you can see, photos are still coming in of just everyone around the country showing their excitement for this launch. And it's really been a touching thing to see how everyone's kept this excitement going from Wednesday's first attempt. So we just took a look at numbers, and we are now over 3 million people tuning in for this historic launch. And so for me personally, I just want to wish Bob and Doug the best of luck. This will be my own first time watching humans lift off to space from the United States, and it's just going to be a super emotional moment. For that, Marie, back to you at Kennedy for these last minutes before launch.
All right, thanks, Tahira. And Leland, we got 23 minutes and some change to go. What do you think Bob and Doug are feeling right
exciting.
now?
Just
I think,
on the phone.
they're very calm, cool, and collected as test pilots, but I think they're thinking about what are the steps that I have to take if a malfunction or something happens. So the nominal stuff is all kind of automated, but if something happens where they have to intervene with those touch screens, that's what they're thinking.
Mm-hmm. And we're just inside 23 minutes now. So on Wednesday, we were 5 minutes further in the countdown when we heard that call to scrub, and the weather was still very touch and go at this point on Wednesday. But today, at least for right now, I don't want to jinx it. I'm afraid to even say it out loud, but it looks better today.
Yeah, and it feels like, I'm feeling it a lot more than I did on Wednesday.
Right.
And speaking of Bob and Doug and them being really calm and cool and collected, having had the opportunity to be in meetings with them and to watch them train, I have to say, and to all of my friends who work with them every single day, the feedback is always just what great people they are.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And just how not just bright and sharp they are, but just good people.
Right.
And around the office, we often refer to them as the dads.
The dads?
And the dads. They're dads. They are dads.
Okay.
And we've met their families. And when you see people on that very personal level, it starts to mean so much. They are a part of our team. They're not a customer. They're our team. They're not a payload. They're our team. They're our family. And so we're just so excited to see the dads up there today.
Yeah. Go dads!
Yeah.
Everybody else is showing up.
All right, we're going to go
Saturday's
send it over
bad.
to Gary for an update from
Everybody's out
Houston.
and about
Gary?
doing things. Even now, or else they're watching TV.
Hey Marie, the space station team here is focused. All eyes are on the system checks that are happening across the board, and we're listening in as we close in on launch, and I can tell you that things are looking very good. Chris Cassidy will be watching from the International Space Station, right now flying over the Pacific Ocean. It's heading to cross right over the launch pad. We might even get some good views from the station. Hope to be capturing those. We'll have the launch view and the big screen up front, and everyone's excited to see our 2 crew members on their way to the International Space Station. But before we get to it, I just want to pass on good luck from the entire flight operations community here in Houston. It's always exciting to be doing something wholly new and history-making with station operations, and we can't wait to see our team members Bob and Doug in low Earth orbit and heading to the International Space Station. That's it from us here in Mission Control Houston. I'll send it back over to the team in Hawthorne for the latest happening there. John.
T-minus 20 minutes, 30 seconds. We're
Strong
continuing to
started.
count down. Everything is still looking good for launch of Falcon 9 and Dragon. 22 minutes, 45 seconds after the hour.
Stage
Right
2
now on the
RP1
right-hand
mode is
side,
complete.
you can see a large white cloud coming off of the strongback. That is normal. as we get ready to load the second stage with liquid oxygen, we have to chill in the plumbing lines going up that strongback. And so as we relieve pressure, the moist, humid Florida air condenses around it, and that gives you the cloud. So that tells us that things are actually on schedule. We did begin propellant load at T-minus 35 minutes. Fuel loading on the second stage, I believe we just heard the call out that it is complete. First stage fuel load is continuing, and right now that's a little more than,
Jeff.
that's about
Yeah.
60% of the way full.
I saw you were on the
So
phone. I
things are
muted
looking
you.
good.
Yeah,
Second
good, yeah.
stage
I'm muted
is
now.
Getting ready
I
to
just got
begin the liquid oxygen loading.
myself something
After
to
they
drink.
finish chilling in the lines that you see on the monitor, they'll begin the
Looks
load
good
in
so
T-minus
far. 20
16
minutes till
and 30
launch.
seconds.
Yeah, good.
The range right now
Turn
is
you down a
go,
little
ready
bit.
to support. Weather continues to be go. As we inch our way closer, we're keeping our.
If this thing does come through, when they start it, just before, can you crank the volume up?
Yeah, I will. I actually,
Now,
I was
on
trying
the
to
Dragon
adjust that
side,
right now.
The
Hold on.
Dragon mission director and the
'Cause you're
team there
really
are
loud to
reporting
me.
no issues. They've done their communications checkouts. The crew access arm, as you can see, is retracted away from the spacecraft.
That's getting better,
The crew
yeah.
is strapped in and they are ready to go. Now, final instructions will be going to the crew at
Oh, here we
T-minus
go.
10 minutes. The crew displays
Talk
will
to
be
me now,
configured
Jeff.
for launch.
Okay, testing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Bob Behnken
Perfect,
and
thank
Doug
you.
Hurley insight into how the launch is proceeding and provide
turn it up
constant
even more.
updates on vehicle health. We've already heard the crew give their go, close their visors, and get ready for launch. For Dragon, it'll enter terminal count at T-minus 5 minutes. When it transitions to internal power, we'll hear continued callouts on the countdown net as we get close to 0 and to liftoff. But right now, at T-minus 18 minutes, 15 seconds, everything continues to be go for an on-time launch. So Dan, Jesse, things are looking pretty good. How are they doing over at your stand?
Things are great from about 15 feet away from you, John, and honestly, things are looking pretty great down at the pad there. We're seeing a lot more blue in the sky. Green is the color we want when we're talking about weather, and that's where we're sitting right now. So we're continuing to count down. We are under 18 minutes away from liftoff. Again, it's an instantaneous liftoff it's going to be 12:22 and 45 seconds here on the West Coast, 3:22 and 45 seconds over on the East Coast there in Florida. Just a reminder, it's going to be about a 9-minute ride up to orbit for the Falcon 9 and Bob and Doug on board Dragon. It'll be a 2-stage flight, so we'll see the first stage fly until we hear MECO, or main engine cutoff, about 2.5 minutes into flight. After that, the second stage will take over and continue to power them the rest of the way. Second engine cutoff comes in just under 9 minutes at about 8 minutes and 44 seconds. Following that second stage completing its job, it'll continue to coast for about 3 minutes. It'll do a slight attitude adjustment and null out any rate, so make sure it's not in any kind of a spin before they do separation. So that's when the Dragon spacecraft will physically separate from the Falcon 9 vehicle, and Bob and Doug will be flying free. It's about a 19-hour ride if we launch today on time. So that means Bob and Doug will get on orbit. They'll have a number of burns, or those firings of those Draco thrusters that they'll do over
Stage 2 launch
several.
load started.
Whoa.
We hear the locks. The liquid oxygen load has now started on stage 2. Again, they're going to be doing a series of burns on the way uphill towards the International Space Station 5, spread out over the first 16 hours or so of their flight until they get much closer and it's time for that approach and docking. And we are expecting that with an on-time launch to happen today. That'll be coming tomorrow in the afternoon.
Yeah.
All right.
They
now
can't go to
that
the
we're under
bathroom.
16 minutes away, we have a special guest joining us. I'm going to toss it over to Jesse.
Or at least they shouldn't go to the bathroom.
We are T-minus 15 minutes and 45 seconds from liftoff of our second demonstration mission today, and we have the honor of having SpaceX's President and COO, Gwen Shotwell, join us.
SpaceX's.
Thanks, Gwen, for coming out and taking a few minutes to chat with us.
Thanks, Jesse.
Hey, Ginger.
We know you've been on console. How's the countdown been going so far in there?
You can see it.
Countdown is clean today.
Hi, Ginger.
It was Wednesday. We did clear the weather hurdles sooner than we did
on Wednesday. And the only thing we're watching right now is downrange weather and lightning at the staging location.
Of course.
But we will clear that hurdle at T-minus 7 minutes.
Awesome, great, very exciting.
Very
now
exciting.
Throw it back to 2012 because you were on console for Dragon when it was first making its way to the space station. How does that experience compare to today?
Stage 2 locks it on the DPs
So
and
I was
tracking
nervous
onward.
then. I stopped getting nervous for launches. Today I'm nervous again. Super nervous. Stomach and throat.
Understandable.
No, it's a fantastic day today. I'm really excited. The team is pulled together. It's such a professional operation. And when I say team, by the way, I mean SpaceX and NASA. These folks have been working incredibly hard and have done a fantastic job.
Yes, and we are all so excited. We know that you have to get back inside of mission control, but is there anything that you wanted to say before liftoff to NASA and SpaceX?
Well, I want to thank NASA, of course, for their generosity and their help with getting to this place. I want to thank all the SpaceXers who have come together to make this moment in history. And I want to thank Elon for hiring me.
We thank Elon for hiring you as well. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll let you get back to mission control. And good luck with launch today.
Thanks, Jesse, and Godspeed, Bob and Doug.
Well, we are so excited. We are just a few minutes away from countdown, so we are going to turn it over to Dan and John for the final minutes in terminal count. Take it away, John.
T-minus 13 minutes, 30 seconds, continuing to count down. We're continuing to load fuel onto the first stage. That should finish up in just about 6 minutes. Fuel is completely loaded on the second stage. That's closed out. And we are continuing to load liquid oxygen on both the first and second stage. The liquid oxygen load beginning on the second stage just about 3.5 minutes ago. We are also loading cryogenic helium into the storage vessels on the first and second stage, getting in the last little bits of helium when we keep it cryogenic, cold and liquefied. That gets us, just like we do with liquid oxygen, the maximum amount into the storage volume so that we can get the most performance out of the vehicle. Right now, we are in a fairly quiet state on the vehicle. Ground pumps continuing to put the propellant in to first and second stages. Next significant issue callouts that we're going to hear will probably be inside the T-minus 10 minutes when they talk to the crew. We'll listen for that. But at the moment, everything continuing to look good at T-minus 12 minutes and 20 seconds.
Getting real close now, John. It's only a little over 12 minutes away. Just a reminder for everybody, it's about a 9-minute ride uphill. We'll have some dueling boxes going on as the first stage is going to be coming home while the second stage is carrying Bob and Doug into orbit. But obviously, we'll be keeping an eye on our astronauts the whole way uphill. Some of the calls that you'll be hearing, as there will be what we call performance calls over the Dragon to ground the entire way uphill. And you'll just hear some of the SpaceX engineers calling out trajectories and booster performance. So we're always looking for that word nominal. I know that's one of John's favorite words. That's one of mine too. We want to hear nominal as much as possible up on the way uphill. You might also hear some number and letter combinations, and those correspond to the different abort zones that Bob and Doug are in during their flight uphill. There's 1A and 1B, which signify that they're on the first stage. Those carry them from there in the Cape all the way up to about the very top of North Carolina. And then we'll have 2A through 2E or 2 Echo, and that will be on the second stage, and that goes from North Carolina all the way up to about the tip of Newfoundland, in the northern Atlantic. And then there is a zone of the northern Atlantic that we're going to avoid, and so you should hear the call out be something similar to forward to Shannon, and that just refers to Shannon, Ireland, which they'll be going off the coast of Ireland at the later stages of the second stage if they have to abort. So just prepping you now for some of those calls. You're hopefully going to hear that word nominal a whole lot on the way uphill. 10.5 minutes. Things are pretty quiet. As John I said, it'll pick up right at about 10 minutes. We'll wait for the crew just to confirm that they're displays are in order. The crew is already strapped in and reported that they are go for launch. And we'll continue to watch the fuel gauges tick up on the Falcon 9 vehicle.
I'll be right
until
back.
Fueling cuts off at just about 2 minutes prior to launch.
Dragon, SpaceX confirmed displays are configured for launch.
SpaceX Dragon displays are configured for launch.
Copy. Bob, Doug, on behalf of the entire SpaceX team, it's been a huge honor to help you get ready for today's historic mission. Know that we're with you, have an amazing flight, and enjoy those views of our beautiful planet.
Thanks, Jay. It is absolutely our honor to be part of this huge effort to get the United States back in the launch business. We'll talk to you some more, but thank you.
I'm back.
Copy all. Thanks for those words.
The SpaceX core, so again, that voice that's going to be talking to Bob and Doug throughout their mission from right here in Hawthorne, just offering a few quick words. The crew did confirm their crew displays are configured for launch. We are coming up on 9 minutes and counting.
We've gotten through T-minus 10 minute with the crew discussions. Activity is now going to switch over to Falcon 9. Our next major event comes at T-minus 7 minutes. We begin what we call engine chill. Pre-valves will open. Those currently separate propellants on the first stage from getting down to the Merlin engines. We'll open the pre-valves. That allowed fuel liquid oxygen to flow to the top of the pumps. And more importantly, when we open the valves, that'll allow us to begin chilling the 9 Merlin 1D turbo pumps on the first stage engine. It'll take a few minutes to get them cold enough to where they would then be ready to pass the large amounts of liquid oxygen through the pumps and into the main thrust chambers when we get to engine ignition at T-minus 2 seconds.
Wow.
We don't want to try to run highly chilled liquid oxygen through a warm pump. You would flash that into gas, and running gas through a high-speed pump is not a good thing. So right now, we are waiting for T-minus 7 minutes. That'll start the engine chill. Shortly after that, we will also get the fuel shutdown.
Complicated.
Yeah. Rocket science.
Oh, who joined? Oh, wait, we got DJ, we got Randy. How you guys doing?
Listening to the SpaceX launch director in the
Just
background.
got your invite.
T-minus 7
Hey,
minutes
Randy.
as we start the chill. We will also get into the
We only-
final topping off.
We're right down. We got
stage
7.5
fuel,
minutes
and then
here.
the fuel load will complete.
It's great. I'm going to turn up the volume even more when it launches.
Heck yeah. I'm going to be right back and rewarm my coffee up.
Okay.
Before
No
before
sweat.
the big bang.
All right.
Stage 1 and Stage 2 engine chill has started.
Chill those engines down.
We've heard the call out. Stage 1 engine chill has started. That's gone up to the crew so that they've got situational awareness. As I mentioned, the pre-valves are open. And now we are topping off first stage fuel, getting ready to finish the fuel load. Liquid oxygen load on first and second
Engine
stage
control, exit pressure.
will continue until the last 3 to 2 minutes of the countdown.
We should hear that call out RP1 load complete coming up in about 6 minutes. Again, RP1 is just that densified kerosene or that rocket fuel that Falcon 9 is going to be used to power Bob and Doug to orbit today.
And Stage 1 fuel is closed out.
I'll be back.
Oh, cool.
Right on time. That call out indicates that the fuel loading on the first stage is complete. Draining back the lines now, so first stage and second stage fuel are complete. Liquid oxygen loading is continuing on both stages. You can see on the view on the left side of the monitor the condensation, the cold gas wrapped around the stages as the tank skins are chilled by the densified liquid oxygen, picking up the humidity from the Florida air.
awesome looking
It
sight.
looks like at this moment we're a little more than 90% full on the oxidizer on the first stage, ticking up towards that 80% mark on the second stage. We'll be counting down all the way till about 2 or 3 minutes, as John and I just said, until everything is loaded in Falcon 9. And then we will be go for launch.
Dragon has transitioned to configure for terminal count.
Wouldn't that
Vehicle
be
tanks
neat?
pressing for strong back
I
retract.
think Jeff's getting lunch or Ginger's getting lunch, one of the two.
We both are getting lunch.
We're both getting lunch, cool.
Uh-huh.
We're pressurizing the Falcon 9 tanks. We're going to
what I
open the
gotta do
clamp
after
armor on the
this.
second stage and begin to retract the strong back.
We had 4.5 minutes to launch.
We'll move back about 2 degrees. That'll get us to the liftoff position. At liftoff, the strong back will then recline about 45 degrees away.
Started.
Ah. Well, look at that.
Stage 2, RV1 bleed.
A lot of condensation, that's for sure.
Launch director called out the strong back retract has started. On the left, you'll see it go back just a couple of degrees.
Stage 1, RV1 bleed.
Ooh, I see something happening on the top there.
Open
The
it
latch,
up.
it looks like the latch is
Just
coming
4
loose
minutes
there.
away
It's about ready to
from
move.
liftoff. Again, at this moment, Bob and Doug are really just laser focused on those displays. They have insight directly into Dragon and the Falcon 9. They're able to see where their fuel loading is at, how everything's progressing down with the count.
AFTS final setup started.
Must be kind of scary because it's a vehicle that's never been flown before by a human.
It's a lot scary.
3.5 minutes from launch.
And the strong back is now reclining away from the Falcon 9.
They've gone right down a few seconds and put it on hold before.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Well, it can happen. It can happen. Well, actually, it could happen for a lot of reasons. That's the thing, not just weather.
And the igniter purges.
Oh, they're thinking away, look. Oh,
Yeah, it's moving away. They say a few degrees,
now it's on its own.
and it'll move real fast when it launches.
Yeah, 100 mile an hour before it leaves the tower.
His own internal power.
Yeah,
Stage 1, LOX load, close out.
all that stuff will be moved away.
Okay, we're at T-minus 2 minutes, 42 seconds. Stage 1 LOX load is closed out. Stage 2 will continue to load for about another half a minute or so. Once we get the completion of Stage 2 LOX loading, we have to vent down the line, so you'll see another large white cloud coming off of the strongback. That'll be normal. That'll happen
Vehicle
around
is transitioning to
T-minus
internal power.
1 minute and 40 seconds.
It'll be
We're
oxygen
going on
probably.
internal power now.
Just a few seconds away from the Stage 2 LOX load being complete. It's been almost 9 years since we've been in this position. A lot of work done by thousands of people to get to this point. All our eyes focused on 2 now.
What is that? Rain? It's raining?
Oh, no.
Wow, look at it. That's
Stage 2
that's
LOX
Florida
load,
for
close
you.
out. Propellant fills are complete.
That was bizarre.
Dragon is in auto idle.
Was that just condensation coming off the rocket, or was
Oh,
that?
maybe that's what it was.
LOX
It's
load
awful
complete.
weird.
All fuel, all oxidizer on Falcon 9. 1 minute, 34 seconds to go till launch.
Ground gas closeouts is starting.
1 minute. Wow, 20 seconds, 23 seconds.
Come on, come on.
Is it gonna go?
No, gotta go, gotta go. They seem awfully calm.
Yeah.
Can they
Well,
calm?
I don't think both of them been in space before, haven't they?
I don't remember.
Falcon 9 is in startup. Dragon is in countdown.
I do know one of them was.
FTS is armed for launch.
Under a
Here we
minute
go.
now, the FTS, the
Here we
flight
go.
termination system, has been armed.
Dragon, SpaceX, go for launch.
40 seconds.
SpaceX Dragon, we're go for launch. Let's light this candle.
T-minus 30 seconds.
We're going.
Countdown on the left end.
Yep.
Sounded there. Wow.
Stage 1 tanks pressing for flight. T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon. Go NASA, go SpaceX. Godspeed, Bob and Doug.
America has launched. And so rises a new era of American spaceflight, and with it the ambitions of a new generation continuing the dream. 20 seconds into flight, stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
T plus 30 seconds into this historic mission. Flying crew on board Dragon and Falcon 9, and look at them go.
Falcon power telemetry nominal. M1D throttle down.
We're throttling down to get ready for the period of maximum dynamic pressure. We're in the throttle bucket. Reports say all systems are go.
Vehicle is supersonic.
We've exceeded Mach 1 on the Falcon 9.
M1D throttle up.
We're throttling back up to full power as we're through max Q.
Copy, 1 Bravo.
And we heard that 1 Bravo call out. That's just the second abort zone that they're in. They'll continue to be on this until the first stage has done its job and they switch over to the second. At this point, Bob and Doug pulling about 2.3 Gs, 2.3 times the Earth's gravity, already moving at over 1,500 miles per hour.
Wow.
We've heard the call out for MVAC engine chill. That's getting the MVAC engine ready to light. That'll come at about 2:44 into flight. Right now, everything continuing to look good. Next major event coming up is going to be the triple. We'll have main engine cutoff of the 9 first stage engines, stage separation,
A mere 4,000 kilometers
and
an
then
hour.
ignition of the second stage engine to continue to carry astronauts into orbit. Coming up in about 20 seconds.
M1D throttle down.
Gonna separate here, I guess.
We heard we're throttling down the Merlin engines on the first stage. And we have Miko.
Miko.
2 Alpha.
Falcon stage separation confirmed.
Huh? First stage separation.
MVAC ignition.
All right, we have stage separation confirmed. The first stage beginning its flight back. The second stage being powered by that single Merlin 1D vacuum engine has ignited and is now
Acquisition of signal
carrying
loss.
Bob and Doug into orbit. So they're going to continue under the power of this second
Starts
stage,
glowing
propulsion
orange.
is nominal.
It's so cool.
which will cut off at SECO, or second engine cut off at about 8 minutes and 44 seconds into today's flight. So a little over 5 minutes to go still on this second stage. You heard the call out to Alpha, so they're now in the longest abort zone that carries them all the way from about North Carolina up the eastern seaboard almost to Canada. Things looking good though, getting good call outs, nominal propulsion on that second stage. Bob and Doug continuing to make their way into orbit.
Working like it should.
Is this where they are now?
Dragon SpaceX nominal trajectory.
Yep.
I guess.
Yeah, they're working their way.
That's them live.
Signal Bermuda.
SpaceX Dragon nominal trajectory.
Yeah, that's neat.
That is neat.
They're gonna entry here.
All right, here in nominal trajectory, so Dragon pointed in the right direction, continuing to make their flight uphill. Heard acquisition of Signal Bermuda. That's one of the other ground stations that they're using to get telemetry and data back from this spacecraft.
I wonder if they'll show the first stage landing or not. They used to do that.
You might.
Yeah.
When are they coming back? They don't know yet.
No, they don't get up there until for 19 hours.
Yeah, you got to.
And then they stay up there, I
catch
think.
up to the station, don't they?
They're staying up there for a while. They're just adding on to the crew of the space station. I don't know. They'll have a return trip with probably other astronauts. I don't know.
A little over 4 minutes, 40 seconds into the flight. Bob and Doug flying at more than 5,600
they're having
miles
another
per
one.
hour.
SpaceX nominal trajectory.
I think there's another one
Already
planned
almost
pretty
200
quickly.
miles
Nominal
downrange
trajectory.
from the Kennedy Space Center. Nominal trajectory continuing.
Oh, that's the first stage you're looking at right there on the right. I'm pretty sure. So that's what it looks.
Yeah, look down on the bottom there. The return entry reburn.
Yeah, that's the camera that they show when they do the re-entry reburn. Those fins are like
And while they continue,
control
up, we're
fins.
getting a view of the first stage as well.
that keeps it stable.
Yep,
It's
on your
very
right
interesting.
screen, you can see that first stage with the grid fins deployed. It's
Grid
making its
fins.
way back to attempt to land on our drone ship, Of Course, I Still Love You Today. And we're just about a couple minutes away from.
Of Course I Still
the
Love You
entry
Today is the
burn.
name of
That's
it?
where
Wow.
3 of the 9 Merlin engines do ignite to help slow the vehicle down as it re-enters back into the Earth's atmosphere. And then after the entry burn will be the landing burn, which is just a single engine
Dragon
burn.
SpaceX nominal trajectory.
And you heard
Nominal
Starting
trajectory.
chill for entry burn.
there's that call out. They are still on a nominal trajectory on Dragon, still on second stage, and that's that MVAC engine on second stage on your left screen.
And it just looks like tinfoil, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Again, on your right screen is that first stage booster coming back towards
That's the
the
thick
launch ship, Of Course I Still
That's
Love
the
You.
yeah
We're
thick.
about
That's
a
the
minute
thick
away
aluminum
from
foil that you buy.
entry burn.
I don't think
It's
it's
not the Dollar Tree stuff.
Heavy duty-
Stage
heavy duty
continuing to
aluminum
power
foil.
Dragon into orbit. And if you're keeping an eye on that timer, that's going to continue to burn until 8 minutes and 44 seconds into flight. So a little over 2 minutes from now, we'll hear the call out SECO. It'll then be a little
Stage 2 propulsion is still good.
a little over 3 minutes until Dragon physically separates from the second stage of the Falcon 9 after the upper
Dragon
stage gets a
SpaceX
chance.
nominal trajectory.
And they're going 15,000
Dragon
kilometers per
Captain,
hour.
Nominal trajectory.
Continuing to check in with
What's that,
Bob
about
and
7,000
Doug
mile an
as
hour?
they are on a nominal trajectory.
No, it's more than that. It's about
Just about
10,000
10
miles.
seconds away
So
from
I
that
think it's
first stage, starting that entry burn on your right
1.6
screen. You should be
kilometers
able to
per
see
mile,
that
something like that.
live.
1.6, okay. Yeah, I generally cut it in half, but you're probably right there.
Yeah.
It's about as fast as they drive in sunlight.
And there is that entry burn beginning.
Only between the speed bumps, yeah.
This burn lasts about 36 seconds long.
That burn is just to keep it from disintegrating on reentry. Slows it down so it doesn't re-enter too fast.
Why are they
That entry burn.
That's just the stage one. It's anonymous. It's autonomous. It's all by itself. It's separated from the main, from the crew. It's coming back to Earth. Yeah, it's very strange.
Looking for that stage 1 landing.
Yeah, they
burn
reuse it.
shortly
Oh,
after.
they reuse it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then I have to check
just
it.
went
It's
in a
completely
few
remote
seconds
control. It's completely autonomous.
Such a cool view on
It's
your
not even
left
remote
screen,
control, it's autonomous.
Seeing Bob and Doug on Dragon. Right now you can see the displays that they are seeing right now themselves.
Terminal guidance.
And back to all step.
Look at the clouds on the reentry. It's coming down through the clouds right now.
We are coming up 25 seconds or so away from SECO.
Yeah, they've got a
Second
landing
cutoff.
pad somewhere in the
Also
off the
point
coast.
Where Bob and Doug are experiencing
Whoop.
their highest G-force.
Oh, that was like that was where
right about 1.8.
that's where they had the
Shannon.
problem with
They were Shannon,
interception.
so that
They
just
came
means
back.
they're in their final abort zones. If they were to abort at this point, would either be an abort to orbit or to land off the coast of Ireland, standing by for second
Stage 1 landing
cutoff
started.
confirmation.
And back to all step. And back shut down. Stage 1 landing alert.
Oh, they're all
Confirmation
wearing
of
masks.
SECO second.
Everybody
landing
has
cutoff.
3 monitors. I feel
Now we are
I only have
waiting
2
for our
monitors. I
first
feel
stage
inadequate.
to make its way to our drone ship. Of course, I still love
Dragon
you.
Here's the,
SpaceX nominal
bar.
orbital insertion.
Launch
Just
escape system
confirmation
is
nominal
Dragon
orbital
Captain.
insertion.
Oh yeah, here it comes, huh?
Nominal
We're gonna show it from the ground perspective.
What you're seeing
Wow.
on your screen is a live view of our drone ship,
Wow.
where our first stage will be coming down. Looks like we lost that live view, but we'll
That's the
have
name of the
confirmation
first
of that
stage.
landing shortly here.
Or that's the name of the ground ship, I guess.
And there you can see on
Look
your
like it
screen,
landed.
Falcon 9 has landed. This
The
is
first
the
stage
first
landed.
Falcon 9 to carry humans to orbit, so very exciting for us. And as you can see on your right
That's
screen, Bob
the
and Doug
just the first
are
stage.
still
It came back to
making
Earth
their
and
way
landed,
to
yeah,
their
all by itself.
targeted orbit.
On a ship, yeah. An autonomous ship,
today.
a robot ship.
Doesn't stop.
You think
It
it'd
does
be
not
tough enough to land on
All
a
right, we did hear
moving
again that
target.
call out. Good
I know.
insertion, so that means Falcon
Well, it
9
probably
and
just
Dragon
moves
right
in
now
order to get
exactly
in
where they're
the right
supposed
place.
to be.
And we need a FRC on recovery 1.
And it's right at about 12 minutes when Dragon will separate.
They got a dinosaur in the cab, in
Looks
the
like
cabin.
we saw a 0G indicator floating around there. I know Bob and Doug owe us a little bit about what exactly that is that they brought up with them.
You can't reach it now.
And before separation, before Dragon initiates separation from the second stage,
Yeah,
they
that is
do make
semi-roomy
sure
compared to the
make-
Apollo.
They do ensure that the vehicle is not spinning and is in good condition before we separate.
Of course, that's a wide-angle camera too.
That's right. The upper stage
If I
does
remember right,
a small
it
attitude maneuver
it's built for
using
4
cold
across.
gas thrusters built into the rocket body itself.
I say, I guess the
Exactly.
second
So
stage
we do
just turned
expect that
off.
separation to occur in about a minute from now, but they do wait until they have full confirmation that it is ready to separate.
Now, the second
Such
stage
cool
is just
views.
so
I cannot get over this view that we are seeing right now. Bob and Doug on the right screen, inside of Crew Dragon, out in space.
Yeah, already.
It's pretty
200
neat they can bring us
kilometers
video.
over planet Earth, or a little over 124
Really
miles,
neat.
traveling in excess of 2,700 meters, 27,000 meters per second, or about 16,000 miles per hour.
It looks like it froze there on the right.
Did you happen, how did you get this name?
This
We're
is
just standing
actually it's a
by that
YouTube
separation
channel
that should be coming
that's
out shortly.
put on by
And we'll
NASA.
begin
That
a series
NASA.
of checks on the Draco thrusters that are going to be used
Yeah,
to
this is the
maneuver
right feed.
and then power Dragon
Yeah.
on its flight to the International Space Station.
I
Standing
have
by
it
for
recorded on
separation.
the science channel.
Expected loss of signal
And then my kid sent me the
Sounds like we
USB
had an expected
for
LOS
YouTube.
loss of
So I
signal
divided
with
it
one
up,
of the
and then I
ground
saw
stations.
You invite you guys.
Waiting for confirmation
okay.
now of that
Dragon separation.
Looks like
confirmed.
separation happened
Dragon
there.
separation confirmed.
There is a great view right
That's a
in
nice
front of
picture,
you
huh?
Countdown
of
1 is
Dragon
over.
separating.
confirmed.
And there's
Nice.
that call out. Dragon is now officially making its way to the International Space Station today.
Dragon SpaceX. with
Looks like it's going the wrong way.
I guess
This-
that piece is expendable.
They probably turned around. They probably did a 180
Dragon,
before
Chief
they.
Engineer on Dragon to
touched
ground.
it. Yeah, I think that
On
part.
behalf of the entire launch team, thanks for flying with Falcon 9 today. We hope you enjoyed the ride and wish you a great mission.
Now they're in complete control.
Thanks, Lala. Congratulations.
Yep, they're
to you and the
self-contained.
F9 team for the first human ride for Falcon 9, and it was incredible. Appreciate all the hard work, and thanks for the great ride to space.
I think that second stage gets wasted. It just goes. It just disintegrates in the reentry.
Thank you so much for what you've done for us today, putting America
least
back
for
into
now.
low Earth
Yeah.
orbit from the Florida coast.
Sure, Musk ain't gonna settle for that.
Copy out. Good luck. Godspeed.
You probably eventually do it with 2 stages if you engineer it right. You won't need the You won't need the second stage.
All right, so Bob and
I hope
Doug
if
are in
Windows
space.
Space has anything to do with
Confirm
this,
nominal
then
equals
wrap up.
activation and service section Draco checkouts. Nose cone deploys in progress.
Yeah, we get the blue screen of death.
Copy all. We're monitoring.
That would be bad.
It'll catch a
Core here in
virus.
Hawthorne giving the crew.
Can you imagine seeing that on their displays? All 3 of them go into the blue screen of death. It's like, whoa!
Deploying. So again, that nose cone is going to open up a little bit more than 90 degrees, goes up to about I think 105 degrees, and that's going to expose the actual docking ring and the hatch that they're going to be going through once they attach to the International Space Station, and also 4 of those Draco thrusters. We call them the forward bulkhead thrusters. That are going to be used for these major phase burns or firings of those thrusters to actually raise their orbit gradually over the coming hours.
Also heard good activation of the ECLIS, that's the Environmental Control and Life Support System. That's everything controlling their atmosphere, just keeping Dragon a nice, safe, habitable environment where they're going to be living for the next 19 hours until they arrive at the space station.
Right, exactly. And Falcon 9's job may be done for today, but the mission is not over. Crew Dragon's job is not done. As you can see, Bob and Doug are still inside Crew Dragon, making their way. It will be a 19-hour trip to the International Space Station before they dock tomorrow morning.
Yeah, well, at least they can put their visors up and they can
And such cool views. I love that we can
take
get
their
these
gloves
live
off, I
views
guess.
here
I don't know.
and see and watch what they're doing now that they are in orbit.
Yeah, it's incredible to just be looking over their shoulder, to be along for the ride.
You mean they don't have to wear nylon
And
gloves?
we're going to be
for
with them, and we're going to be
6
with
feet
all
apart?
of you the entire way.
Where's their mask?
For their journey.
Yeah, where's their mask?
Covering live throughout. Bob and Doug will obviously have
Well,
a
they
sleep
lost the
period,
video, so I
where
guess
they'll
that's
get about
it.
8 hours of sleep a little bit later today
Yeah, probably
before they
so.
wake up for all of their
I wonder
final
if they're gonna
approach.
continue this
One of the
feed
major
through the
things we
whole,
are looking
Oh,
forward
I
to
think
in
they'll
the next
continue
couple
the
of
feed
hours is
probably
gonna be
for
their
the whole
first turn
19
at
hours.
the controls. So they're actually going to be using those touchscreen
I might be
displays
wrong.
to take control and manually pilot Dragon. We'll
Oh,
walk
I
you
think
through
you
what
probably
that's going to
will.
look like, and
If anybody can
assuming
put
we
you
have
with
some
blue
good ground
mask,
station coverage, we'll be
Yeah.
able to get views right inside Dragon, looking over their shoulder as they manipulate the controls at the display. But I
That's
mean,
so
we
awesome.
had a smooth ride.
I think that's the
uphill,
second
both stages
stage
of the
view
Falcon
there.
9 doing their job, placing Bob and Doug into orbit. I mean, this is a day. This is a historical day. This is us kicking off that new era of spaceflight that we've all been talking about and longing for since the space shuttle program.
How many
came to an
monitors
end
do
in
they have there?
2011.
3, 6, 9,
The
12.
weather cooperated.
Yes, second time's a charm.
Right.
All right, so day for the history board.
We lost the
books.
stage 2 downlink
As you can
there.
see, we have lost some live signal there, but the mission still continues, and we're going to send it over to KSC to continue broadcasting live with you.
signal Newfoundland.
Launch America.
Yeah, Jesse and Dan, we are just in awe over here. And I woke up this morning and looked at the weather forecast. I was like, man, we're going to be back here on Sunday, but we did it. And the room cleared out. Everybody was outside watching, and inside the lights were shaking, the cameras were shaking. Lauren came back in with tears in her eyes. This is really amazing.
I can't believe it. I saw it with my own eyes. This is, I'm a little bit speechless. Just so grateful that we got them up there, and there's a lot more to go. But I'm so happy they're safe right now. I'm just so happy.
Yeah, Leland, you were talking about it. It's amazing what we can do when we work together.
Yes, American astronauts on an American rocket from American soil, showing you what Americans can do when we come together as a team and blast Doug and Bob off to the cosmos. This is what it's all about, and their families and everyone.
So now they
is
have to
working
talk
together
about
to,
something because we
keep
don't have any
space
live
safe.
feed
So,
anymore.
I don't know what to say. That rocket fuel is still in my veins, and I want to go get on the rocket.
Well, it's too late now. Maybe
I
the next
know,
one.
I know.
But we want to go.
I'm gonna turn this you guys up and them down a little bit.
He's there with the administrator who hopefully
Oh,
has
that-
more
that
work
was
with me
neat.
because we're
That
still
was
kinda
neat.
speechless. Daryl?
I got a lot of screenshots.
Oh, cool.
Support building
Thanks,
where
thanks,
a
Dave.
course of
Oh no, thank you.
has been happening from the
Glad you guys
beginning of
showed
launch
up.
and throughout the
Yeah,
various
hey,
stages.
thanks
Some
for
very
all the
special
trouble.
guests were here
No
to
problem.
watch it. That includes
No
President
problem.
Trump,
I'll probably let it go
Mike
for
Pence,
another
and Master
few minutes and
Administrator
then cut her
Jim
off here.
Bridenstine, who joins me now, and we're with the president and
Yeah, it's
the
gonna be
president.
pretty much propaganda from
America's
this.
Yeah, I mean it's not much to happen here for a while now, so they're gonna. And plus we don't even have live feed, so it's kind of
So
neat.
this has been a long time coming. It's been 9 years
Yes.
since we've launched American astronauts on
I guess
American rockets from American
what did we
soil.
decide it was Carter,
And
right?
now it's done.
No, it was
We've done it. It's been way too long. I want to give a lot of credit to
Not
Charlie
Carter.
Bolden, who was my predecessor as the NASA administrator. He fought hard for
Was
this
it Carter
program at
the
a
last
time
one
when
that
it
watched
didn't
a
get any
manned
support in
space launch?
Congress. We now have an
I can't
administrator
remember.
who is fully
Yeah, I think it was
supportive
Carter.
of our spaceflight initiatives, not just on the exploration, discovery, going to the moon, onto Mars, but also from a Space Force perspective. Our budgets are going up, things are strong, And today
Well,
was just,
you know, it's amazing if it wasn't for one guy.
But one of the things the president
with
did
a
right out of the
vision.
gate when he became president is he created what's called the National Space Council. And he put the vice president as chairman of the National Space Council. And on that National Space Council, you've got the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Commerce, the Secretary of Transportation, the Secretary of Education, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, all of these different amazing individuals that deal with space day in and day out. A lot of people don't realize how many.
I guess when they're on the far side of the Earth, you can't pick up their feed, huh?
And the Vice President invited those members of the National Space Council here as well.
You think they could do a moon bounce?
Well, I think they'd have satellites or something to help.
Bipartisan members of
Oh, I'm
Congress,
sure
Republicans and
that
Democrats
I'm sure that's
who
being
have been
recorded.
involved in supporting this
That's true.
program,
That's true.
you know, for a long time now. So
Don't they have tracking stations all around the Earth?
I'm breathing this
I would
out.
think they would, yeah.
But I will also tell you,
I know
I'm
they
not
have
gonna
one in
celebrate
South
until
Africa
Bob and Doug are home
and,
safely.
other
Tomorrow
places.
they're going to dock to the International Space Station. Tonight I'm heading to Houston to be at the Johnson Space Center when that happens. So it's a bit of a relief. The nose cone is now open. It's now deployed, which means that you know, now we're going to go into some burns. We're going to have some phasing burns. We're going to have some you know, boosting burns, and we're going to get as much as we can in alignment with the International Space Station as early as possible here. But also, I know it's hard, but you know, the big thing that we need to do now is we got to get.
I got to do more yard work. That's what I have to do now.
Yeah, me too. I got a backyard.
I can guarantee you there will be no rest for.
Yeah, me too. But I'm working on the front yard, so I got a lot of yard work.
Well, I got guys that take care of the front yard.
Oh, good for you. I should do that too.
Yeah, that way, if I'm not feeling up to it, I don't care. It gets done.
Yeah.
Nobody sees the backyard.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
To be clear, I think he's the only sitting president to watch
Hey
American
guys, I'm gonna get
astronauts
back
launch
to
on a
work
brand
here.
new rocket that has never launched before.
Yeah,
Okay.
Thanks again for the feed.
That's a big
Hey, no problem, guys.
You know,
Guys,
he also said we're gonna get to the moon
I'll
by
let you go. I gotta find some lunch. So.
okay. Have a good lunch, Randy.
Yeah,
Take care,
All
man.
right, guys. Take care.
7-3.
Yeah, thanks Dave for putting it out.
No problem. I'm gonna go ahead and cancel it out. All right.
Yeah.
See you guys. 7-3.
Yeah.
Bye. All right. Closing this out, guys. Goodbye.